The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, has warned that Parliament can no longer block a no-deal Brexit. During his bid for the Tory leadership, Mr Hancock said that no deal was not an available choice to the next Prime Minister, but he told the BBC that he has now changed his mind in the light of last month's Commons votes. Well, let's get more on this now. I am joined by Maddy Thimont Jack, who's Senior Researcher at the Institute for Government's Brexit team. Thank you very much for being with us. So there have been various people claiming, Dominic Cummings, who's now in Downing Street with Boris Johnson, Matt Hancock, saying that Parliament cannot stop a no-deal Brexit. Do you think it could, possibly, theoretically?
I think it's very challenging for them to do so, and there are limited options facing MPs right now. But I don't know if we can completely rule it out, because we've sort of assumed certain things before and then events have transpired. I think what they're both referring to is the sort of attempt to use a no confidence motion in the government as a way to stop no deal, because the sort of process set out under the Fixed Term Parliaments Act says that if MPs pass a no confidence motion in the government, there are sort of a period of 14 days when, at the end of which, if no one, either sort of the sitting Prime Minister or someone else, was able to win a confidence motion, then we'd head into a general election. And I think what they're referring to there is that there's very, very little time for that to take place before the 31st of October. But there are some other sort of mechanisms that MPs might try and use. Yeah,
well, let's talk about what they might be, because people like Dominic Grieve, prominent Remain campaigner, and who was a thorn in the side of Theresa May's government for a long time, has argued that there are still a number of options left for MPs to block no deal. What would those options be?
So I think the one that is sort of the most effective way to stop no deal would be to pass legislation requiring the government to take steps to prevent it, because under international law, under EU law, the UK leaves the EU at the end of on the 31st of October, with or without a deal. So there are three ways to stop no deal. It's either you revoke Article 50, you request an extension to Article 50, or you try and pass a deal. Now, what MPs could do is pass legislation requiring the government to take one of those first two steps to actually avoid it entirely. So seek an extension to Article 50, which the EU would have to agree to, or to revoke Article 50. This is something that they actually did earlier this year, although by that stage, Theresa May had actually already requested an extension, so the legislation they passed wasn't actually necessary. The big challenge here, though, is actually getting into a position where they can introduce and then pass the legislation, because the government does control the order paper, controls time in the Commons. So that's their biggest challenge.
Although some have said that the Speaker is kind of on their side. I mean, I know it's debatable and it's arguable, and he probably wouldn't admit that, but the role of the Speaker of the House of Commons in all of this could be quite critical.
Yeah, completely. So he has, earlier this year, he indicated that motions that are tabled under emergency debates might contain some more opportunities than necessarily initially imagined. I think he said that earlier in March. And so some people say, so normally emergency debate motions are motions that are saying something, the House has considered something and it's just expressed in neutral terms, you can't amend it. But if the Speaker were to allow a substantive motion, so something that actually, where the House takes a view on something, he might then allow an amendment which could take control of the order paper on another day. Now, that would be quite a significant break from current sort of normal practice and current parliamentary convention, but I think that the sort of implication is that if the government is willing to ignore MPs on this big issue, then maybe the Speaker would be much more willing to do that. Again, timing becomes a big issue, because if he might be less likely to take that step in September. He might be more willing to in October, as the sort of 31st gets closer and it seems like the government's ignoring Parliament. But we can't really predict at this stage. I think a lot of it is extremely uncertain, and we're going to have to wait and see how it plays out after the summer.
Well, I was just going to say, can you predict? Go on, give us your best guess. Do you think that Parliament A, will try to stop a no-deal Brexit, and B, will succeed?
I think they will definitely try. I think we're going to be looking at essentially a war of attrition between government and Parliament in the autumn. But I think we also shouldn't rule out the fact that although Boris Johnson has said that he's very pro a no-deal Brexit, there is a world in which he tries to renegotiate something with the EU and actually pass a deal. So we really don't know at this stage what's going to happen, and I don't think I'm willing at all to put a bet on it.
I don't blame you. OK, Maddy Thimont Jack, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Senior Researcher at the Institute for Government's Brexit team.